Ladies and gentlemen, kindly please rise as we welcome our guests of honor with a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, you may be seated. Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, leaders from industry, finance, academia, and international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Nozipho Shabalala, and it is my singular privilege to serve you as your moderator today. On behalf of the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board and its partners, it is my singular honor to welcome you to the second edition of the Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa, NEISA 2026. Let's give a round of applause for that. Thank you. Distinguished guests, we all know that this summit convenes at a defining moment for the African continent. No one in this room needs reminding that our economies are growing, industries are expanding, cities are urbanizing, and digital transformation is accelerating. And yet, one stubborn challenge continues to sit at the very center of Africa's development ambition, and that is energy. And added to this, recent global disruptions have also reminded us of something else, that energy insecurity elsewhere can quickly become economic instability at home. And so over the next 2 days, the conversation is not just going to be about energy excess, but it will extend itself to energy security too. And most importantly, NEISA 2026 recognizes that the future of nuclear energy in Africa will not be built by governments alone. It will demand partnerships, it will demand regional cooperation, and it will demand innovative financing. And so today's opening ceremony sets the tone for that journey and sets the tone for every conversation that is to follow from here on. And we begin by reflecting on a simple but urgent question. Why nuclear? And why now? Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the screen.
Africa is not waiting. Across this continent, a new generation is building. Factories, data centers, hospitals, refineries, cities the size of nations. This is the largest industrial transformation of our century. But ambition runs on power. And industry, real industry, cannot run on what flickers. Heavy industry needs heat that does not pause. Hospitals need power that does not blink. An economy of 3 billion people by 2050 needs a baseload it can trust. Africa needs more. Africa needs firm, clean, abundant energy at the scale of its ambition. This is where nuclear energy comes in. The technology that once meant decade-long megaprojects has been re-engineered. Smaller, modular, safer by design, faster to deploy. Small modular reactors, micro-modular reactors, built in factories, shipped to site, scale to need. For the first time, nuclear energy fits the African context. Not someday, now. And yet feasibility is not the same as investability. Projects do not fail because the technology is missing. They fail because the financing structures are not there, because the risk is mispriced, because no one has yet sat in the same room and built the deal together. That is what must change. Heads of state and ministers, your leadership sets the direction. Regulators, your readiness builds the trust. Utilities and industry, your demand anchors the case. And to the financiers, the private capital of this continent and beyond, we are not asking you to approve a finished plan. We are inviting you to co-design it. The ambition is set. The technology is ready. The moment is now. Welcome to NEISA 2026.
Thank you so very much. To formally welcome us and to set the context for the summit, it is my pleasure now to welcome to the stage Dr. Zerbo, Energy Advisor in the Office of the President of the Republic of Rwanda and Chairman of the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. Please help me welcome Dr. Zerbo.
Thank you. Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda. Excellency For Esozimna Gnassingbé, President of the Republic of Togo. Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania. Rafael Mariano Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, distinguished representatives of international organizations, investors, industry leaders, researchers and partners, dear young people from across Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Many of you have traveled a long way, and we are very happy to welcome you in Kigali. For what is the second edition of the Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa, NEISA 2026. Allow me first to express my deep gratitude to His Excellency President Kagame for his leadership and his unwavering commitment to Africa's technological and energy transformation. Rwanda demonstrates that with vision, discipline, and ambition, an African country can become a model of innovation and resilience. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to see President Kagame's vision in action, please look up. I don't know if you're seeing this. Even the chandelier looks like an atom. I don't know if that's... So Africa is living through a historic moment. Nearly half of Africans still lack reliable access to electricity. Yet our continent possesses many of the strategic resources required for the global energy transition: uranium, cobalt, lithium, graphite, and rare earth. Africa's challenge is therefore not one of resources. It is a challenge of transformation. The question is no longer simply, how do we electrify Africa? The question is, how do we power Africa's industrialization, digital sovereignty, and long-term growth in a sustainable way? Fortunately, it was said just now, global financial institutions are beginning once again to consider civil nuclear energy within their financing portfolios. Africa must not be an operator of this new era, energy era. Like it is popularly said, if countries are not at the table, they risk being on the menu. Africa should not simply aspire to have a seat at the table. Africa must help shape the table itself. And that's what we're trying to do at NEISA. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa's nuclear future in the 21st century will not look like the nuclear industry in the 20th century. Small modular reactors and micro modular reactors are game changers. This technology offers greater modularity, enhanced safety, shorter construction timelines, and better adaptation to our electrical infrastructure. But they also open new possibilities, not only for electricity generation, but for industrialization, clean hydrogen production, and the digital infrastructure of the future. And here, allow me to underline an important global signal. The world's largest technologies companies, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta, are now investing massively in nuclear energy. Why? Because artificial intelligence and data center require enormous quantities of stable electricity. The digital giants have understood one essential truth. There will be no powerful artificial intelligence without reliable, dispatchable, and decarbonized energy. This is also a message for Africa. There will be no African digital sovereignty without African energy sovereignty. But let us also be clear-eyed. Ambition are good intentions alone and will not be enough to materialize that future. Financing will remain a central challenge. The cost of a capital remains high. Projects remain fragmented, and many countries still lack the institutional ecosystem required to move from political ambition to bankable projects. Our objective here in Kigali is not simply to discuss nuclear energy. It is to help transform African ambition into credible and investable pathways. To do so, we must strengthen financing mechanisms, public-private partnerships, regulatory capacity, and cooperation. And in this spirit, I'm particularly pleased to announce here that at NEISA, the creation of the Global Coalition for Nuclear Philanthropy, led by the Rockefeller Foundation and Temasek Trust. They are joined by other nuclear philanthropists and partners committed to mobilizing capital in support of safe, secure, and equitable nuclear energy deployment worldwide. This coalition reflects a growing international recognition that nuclear energy is not only a technological or industrial issue, it is also a matter of development, governance, and strategic sovereignty. Importantly, this coalition recognizes that Africa must not be treated as a peripheral actor in the future of nuclear energy. Africa must be part of shaping that future from the very beginning. Above all, however, Africa's nuclear future will depend on African talent, and that is key. Human capital is our first strategic infrastructure. Before reactors come engineers, before deployment comes training, and before sovereignty comes knowledge. That is why initiatives such as NEISA Next Gen, Women in Nuclear, Youth in Nuclear, and university partnership are so important. And to the young African present in this room, let me say this. You're not simply the next generation. You're already the generation that will shape Africa's energy future. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, NEISA will not ultimately be judged by speeches or panels. It will be judged by the partnership created, the project launched, the investment mobilized, and the concrete decision that emerged from Kigali. Energy lies at the heart of sovereignty, and sovereignty lies at the heart of Africa's future. Financing remains a challenge, but with sustainable financing models, strong international partnerships, build-out of institutional capacity, and technology such as SMRs, Africa will be able to move forward. The truth is simple. Without nuclear energy as part of the solution, sustainable large-scale energy abundance and sovereignty will remain out of reach. We have a long road ahead, but Africa is ready to embrace this challenge. Welcome to NEISA 2026, and let us get to work. Thank you.
A very big thank you, Dr. Zerbo, for that reminder that without energy sovereignty, digital sovereignty, development sovereignty, economic sovereignty, and all forms of sovereignty remain out of reach, and that the real test is the partnerships, is the projects, and it's the finance that will be mobilized, that against which we will judge the success of this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker has been one of the leading voices on the role of nuclear energy in sustainable development, in energy security, and in international cooperation. Please help me welcome with a warm round of applause, Mr. Rafael Mariano Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Good morning, Madam President, Monsieur le Président, dear friends. 1 year ago, more or less, we were here, we came for the first time for this conference organized by my good friend, Zerbo, with this idea of bringing together policymakers, but also companies, institutions across Africa and also from other parts of the world for what has been discussed. You saw this very nice video and in Lasina's words also a good description of what is going on in the world. So I think we are very clear in that at the present international juncture, the issue of energy and energy security and how to facilitate and guarantee for every nation, and in particular in this continent, has become central to facilitate progress and economic growth. Without it, it will simply not be possible. It was said. The statistics are there. We know the needs, we know the pace and the projected electrification growth in Africa, which is impressive. We also know the gaps that still exist in the continent, with roughly 500 million Africans still without the benefits of energy and electrical power. But the difference is now that we are understanding what are the levers, what are the instruments that may be there for us to bridge that gap and to improve things. And in that context, nuclear. From the perspective of the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is this organization of ours, the expression of the multilateralism, global multilateralism that exists since 1957, from the perspective of this organization, the issue is not so much to explain, not so much to advocate, but to really establish the connectors that will facilitate implementation of things, real things. How do we move from understanding that we have a technology, that there are certain gaps, and that this is also possible in Africa? And here is where the activity, Mr. President, of the IAEA needs to be there to facilitate this work. And how do we do this? Of course, there is a normative perspective which is important. We have the treaties, we have the conventions, we have the meetings where we set the stage for what needs to be done. But most importantly, I think, is to be here as we are in every different member state in Africa, facilitating this. One very important thing is how we build capacity. You were saying just now that before sovereignty comes knowledge. Knowledge is key. And for us to be able, and for you to be able to host nuclear power plants, big or small, we need to capacitate, we need to train, we need to unleash the force of African talent, which is there, but needs to be reinforced. And this is why the IAEA has been helping in all of these training, capacity building programs, education programs that are bringing this capacity here, which is indispensable. because even in a world where technology has evolved, and now nuclear through small modular reactors can be seen as something that is achievable, that is easier than these big projects that used to define nuclear energy all over the world. We need the capacity to understand, the capacity to handle, and also to produce. It is very important to see that also here in Africa, there are companies, there are startups, there are people who are already working on innovative designs that could be applicable here in Africa and in the rest of the world. So this is one area where we are hand in hand working with you to try to help on that. Obviously, any good idea and in particular when it comes to energy needs financing. It was described before. And for many, many years, one very, very thick wall, but one very, very distinct red line that separated many developing countries, but in particular here in Africa, from the benefits of nuclear energy was finance. And this has been a problem that has been plaguing nuclear energy development in many parts of the world. Last year, a page was turned when, after consultations with the World Bank, and I want to give a shout out to the president of the World Bank, Ajay Banga, who believed in that change could be possible. We were able to sign a historic agreement, the IAEA and the World Bank, whereby now it is possible that the doors of international finance institutions open up for nuclear as well. It is very simple, but it was not happening. When countries came to multilateral banks, development banks, finance institutions, in many cases, believe it or not, there was a prohibition. Nuclear was not to be financed. And so that was making this gap even bigger and wider and unfairer, if I can say it. But this has changed. And of course, as always, when the World Bank Group takes a direction, then the tone and the melody has changed. And very, very quickly, a number of other institutions, starting with the Asian Development Bank, we signed an agreement in Manila in December, the Latin American Development Bank, and now, of course, I can tell you that we are in a very advanced stage of conversations with the African Development Bank. So we can also bring the possibilities of financing to Africa. The Islamic Development Bank, we do have agreements with them. So all these possibilities are there. And what this does is the very important psychological and also economical barrier of de-risking achievable. So when we can have projects that are, the magic word, bankable, then things become possible. Then an SMR becomes something that is a real possibility. So this is the other big chapter I wanted to highlight for you, Mr. President, Madam President. The finance is there. And what is happening, just to explain what these agreements are for, is that when one of our countries, your countries, will be coming to the African Development Bank or to the World Bank proper with an idea of a certain project, then the World Bank will have a partner in the IAEA to turn to make sure that the normative, the safety, the security, the non-proliferation package is there to bring this confidence which is indispensable. So this is why we are so happy that we are also turning this page. The existence of important and strong regulators is, again, an area, and I want to congratulate Rwanda, because the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board is there, and the Rwandan Nuclear Authority is there, and they are providing this regulatory capacity, which is indispensable. So, as we can see, the elements are finally aligning for us to move from the declaratory speeches. Can be very nice, but what we need is a reality that changes the lives of people out there. And this is what we need. And this is what you as presidents and heads of state want for your countries. And nuclear energy can be a part of that. Will it be the only thing? Will it be the thing? No. It is one important element in intelligent energy grids. We are seeing all over the world problems that are associated with climate, problems that are associated with situations, political, why not say it, geopolitical situations, when all of a sudden overdependence from external sources of energy become a problem, become a blocking obstacle for economic development. And nuclear gives us that. So all these elements, I believe, give us an alternative, an option, which is what we really want. If I may, to conclude these remarks, and thanking you, Mr. President, and thanking for this conference that is slowly becoming a landmark in the yearly calendar of global meetings on nuclear energy. I think it's important to highlight what we have done here in Rwanda since last year when we last saw each other. I think it's nice that when we come a year after an event, we have something to show for. Since the last time we saw each other, we have been working with the Rwandese experts on a national evaluation, which we are going to be handing over to you, Mr. President, today. So thank you for this opportunity. You know that the international community, and in particular our African friends, colleagues and partners, can count on the support of the IAEA every step of the way. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we have now is Mr. Raphael Grossi is going to be handing over a report to His Excellency Paul Kagame. And of course, this is the IAEA Phase 1 Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Report. And the significance of this is quite important, ladies and gentlemen. The successful completion of the Phase 1 review is an important milestone for Rwanda's long-term energy and development agenda, and a strong signal as we talk about signals of the country's continued focus on innovation and sustainability. More importantly, Rwanda is now moving on to Phase 2 activities, including discussions with vendors and partners. Let's give that a big round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Grossi. A final round of applause. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Mr. Grossi. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, in the moment, a direct expression that, yes, indeed, we have moved beyond explanations. We have moved beyond advocacy. It is about action now, and it is about bridging ambition with these levers that we're identifying over the next 2 days that get us to that action. Now, as African nations explore the next generation of energy systems, of leadership and strategic foresight, all of these remain incredibly essential. And so our next speaker speaks to all of these themes and more. It's my absolute privilege to welcome Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania.
Your Excellency, President Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Excellencies, heads of state and government, honorable ministers, Your Excellency Rafael Mariano Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, distinguished representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to His Excellency Paul Kagame, government and the people of Rwanda for the warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation since our arrival in the land of Thousand Hills. Also, thank you. Also, allow me to commend organizers of the Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa, NEISA 2026, for convening this critical gathering under the theme, Powering Africa's Future, Turning Nuclear Energy Ambition into Investable Reality. Africa's economic transformation depends fundamentally on reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy systems. Across our continent, growing industrialization, rapid urbanization, expanding digital infrastructure, and increasing demand for manufacturing and mining activities require stable base load power capable of supporting long-term development. However, in considering future nuclear energy programs, several important issues must be addressed collectively. First is financing, which still remains a major challenge, and thanks to Gross, who told us that financing is there, but then the architecture has to be suitable for African countries. Africa needs innovative financing mechanisms, blending financing models and risk-sharing arrangements capable of making nuclear projects bankable and accessible. Second is regulatory preparedness and institutional capacity, which are very essential. Safe, secure, and peaceful use of nuclear technology requires a strong regulatory system, skilled human resources, effective safety oversight, and adherence to international standards. Tanzania appreciates the important role being played by the International Atomic Energy Agency and other international partners in supporting African countries in these areas. Third, public confidence and awareness is critical to allay fears of nuclear threats and leverage on its opportunities. African citizenry should be aware and fully understand both the opportunities and responsibilities associated with nuclear energy development. Transparency, safety, environmental protection, and responsible governance must remain at the heart of all nuclear programs. Excellencies, Tanzania strongly believes that regional cooperation is essential for Africa's successful nuclear energy future. Thanks to President Kagame for championing the coordination of the nuclear agenda in Africa. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Through these partnerships with international organizations and peers, Tanzania looks forward to learning from global experiences and strengthening cooperation in nuclear energy transition. Now allow me also to recall the successful African Energy Summit held in Dar es Salaam in January 2025, which brought together African leaders, development partners, financial institutions, and private sector stakeholders to advance the continent's energy agenda. The summit adopted the Dar es Salaam Energy Declaration, which reaffirmed African collective commitment to accelerate access to reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy as a foundation for economic transformation and industrial development. The Dar es Salaam Declaration recognized further that no single energy solution can adequately address Africa's growing demand, and therefore encouraged African countries to pursue balanced and resilient energy strategies tailored to national circumstances. This discussion here in Kigali seamlessly complements the commitments made in Dar es Salaam by focusing on how emerging nuclear technologies can contribute to Africa's broader energy transition and long-term energy security. Nuclear energy should not be viewed as competing with renewable energy, but rather as a complementing broader effort to build the resilient, sustainable, and reliable energy systems capable of supporting industrial transformation across our continent. Needless to say that this platform provides an important opportunity for Africa to move from ambition to implementation. We must continue working together to create an enabling environment that supports investment, strengthening institutions, and build the technical capacity necessary for long-term energy transformation. Excellencies, talking again of my country, in Tanzania, electricity demand continues to grow in line with the national development priorities under the country's Development Vision 2050. Our installed electricity generation capacity to date exceeds 4,500 megawatts, while national demand is projected to reach 8,000 megawatts by 2030 and 70,000 megawatts by 2050. And it is in this context that Tanzania is advancing nuclear energy as part of our long-term strategy to diversify our energy mix and support sustainable economic growth. To guide this effort, we have developed an ambitious national roadmap for nuclear power development to support additional 1,200 megawatts of nuclear capacity within the next decade, in alignment with the International Atomic Energy Agency milestones approach. We also formulated the National Nuclear Energy Implementation Organization, or we call it NEPIO, to oversee the preparation and implementation of nuclear power program as required by IAEA. And so, in furtherance of the energy generation systems, we are particularly interested in understanding the opportunities presented by emerging technologies such as small modular reactors and micromodular reactors, which are increasingly being considered globally as scalable, flexible, and potentially suitable solutions for developing countries. In conclusion, I wish to reaffirm Tanzania's commitment in working closely with African partners, international institutions, development finance organizations, and the private sector to explore peaceful and sustainable nuclear energy opportunities that contribute meaningfully to Africa's prosperity and energy security. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and of course, reminding us of the importance of a public confidence and awareness, and that, of course, sets us up beautifully for one of the conversations that we'll be having in the afternoon, which really looks at public trust and the public trust dialogues that are going to be hosted as part of NEISA 2026. Now, distinguished guests, our next speaker has consistently emphasized infrastructure, industrialization, and regional integration as central pillars to Africa's transformation. Please help me welcome with a warm round of applause His Excellency Fore Esozima Gnassingbé, the President of the Council of Togo.
Excellence, Monsieur Paul Kagame, président de la République du Rwanda, hôte de ce sommet. Excellence, Madame Samia Suluhu Hassan, présidente de la République unie de Tanzanie, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs de délégation, Monsieur Raphaël Grossi, directeur général de l'Agence internationale de l'énergie atomique, Mesdames et Messieurs les directeurs généraux de grandes institutions du nucléaire mondial, Mesdames et Messieurs les investisseurs, les partenaires techniques et financiers, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des institutions financières, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais avant toute chose exprimer au président Paul Kagame et au peuple frère du Rwanda la reconnaissance du peuple togolais, reconnaissance pour l'hospitalité, reconnaissance pour le courage de la vision, reconnaissance pour ce leadership qui, une fois encore, ouvre à notre continent un chemin que d'autres pensaient impraticable. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, il existe dans la vie des continents des moments où l'on ne se contente plus de constater, des moments où il faut décider. Kigali, ce matin, est l'un de ces moments, car la vérité est devant nous. Près d'un Africain sur deux n'a toujours pas accès à une électricité fiable. Le continent africain représente une part croissante de la population mondiale. Nos villes vont continuer de croître. Nos besoins industriels vont augmenter. Nos économies vont se numériser. Et tout cela exige une énergie que nous ne pouvons plus raisonnablement espérer obtenir des seules sources que nous mobilisons aujourd'hui. Permettez-moi alors, dans le temps qui m'est imparti, de faire 3 remarques simples, 3 questions auxquelles l'Afrique et ce sommet doivent répondre. La première question est celle de la lucidité. Sommes-nous aujourd'hui prêts à reconnaître ensemble que les énergies renouvelables, aussi essentielles soient-elles, ne suffiront plus à elles seules à porter notre industrialisation? Au Togo, comme dans beaucoup de pays, nous croyons au solaire. Nous croyons aussi à l'hydraulique. Nous éclairons déjà des centaines de villages par des mini-réseaux. Mais nous sommes aussi conscients que les industries de transformation, les centres de données, l'intelligence artificielle, le numérique africain de demain exigent une électricité continue, décarbonée, compétitive en électricité de base. Sur ce terrain, le nucléaire civil, et singulièrement les petits réacteurs modulaires et les micro-réacteurs, n'est plus une option lointaine. C'est une option, nous dit-on, mature. La Banque mondiale a levé son interdiction historique de financer le nucléaire. La COP et les institutions financières ont validé cette technologie parce qu'elle a changé. Le contexte aussi a changé. À nous, désormais, de changer de regard. La deuxième question est celle de la responsabilité. Que faisons-nous concrètement pour que cette ambition devienne réalité? Le Togo, pour sa part, a choisi modestement d'agir. Membre de l'IAEA depuis 2012, la loi nationale sur l'usage sûr, sécurisé et pacifique du nucléaire a été adoptée. Création en janvier 2025 de notre commissariat à l'énergie atomique, élection au Conseil des gouverneurs de l'IAEA pour 2025-2027 et tout récemment à Vienne, signature de nouveaux cadres de coopération avec l'agence pour les 5 prochaines années. Nous avons en outre engagé l'exploration de micro-réacteurs modulaires pour les zones non raccordées au réseau national. Nous ratifions les conventions internationales de sûreté. Nous bâtissons pas à pas la crédibilité institutionnelle qui rend un projet bancable. Être responsable, ce n'est pas attendre, c'est préparer, c'est cadrer, c'est convaincre et c'est par-dessus tout garantir à nos populations que le nucléaire africain naîtra sous le signe de la sûreté absolue et de la transparence. La troisième question est celle de l'exigence commune. Sommes-nous ensemble prêts à faire ce qu'aucun pays africain ne pourra réussir seul? Mutualiser nos régulations, aligner nos standards, agréger nos demandes, construire pour la première fois un cadre africain de financement du nucléaire avec les banques de développement, les fonds souverains, les investisseurs privés. Sans ce cadre, l'ambition risque de rester lettre morte. Et puis surtout, former massivement, scientifiques, ingénieurs, techniciens, régulateurs, juristes. Notre jeunesse, et particulièrement nos jeunes filles, doit être au cœur de cette aventure. Le nucléaire africain ne sera pas un nucléaire importé. Il sera un nucléaire pensé, opéré et gouverné par les Africains au service des Africains. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'Afrique ne demande pas qu'on lui fasse l'aumône d'une technologie. L'Afrique propose plutôt un partenariat. L'Afrique propose un marché. L'Afrique propose une vision adulte de sa propre énergie. Nous disposons des ressources. Nous disposons de l'uranium. Nous avons la demande. Nous avons aussi la volonté politique. Ce qui nous manque encore, ce sont les instruments financiers à la hauteur de notre ambition et un récit international qui cesse de considérer le nucléaire africain comme un horizon improbable ou même impossible, pour reconnaître ce qu'il est en train de devenir, c'est-à-dire un horizon possible, probable et pourquoi pas imminent. Faisons donc de NEISA 2026 le sommet où l'Afrique a cessé de débattre du si pour s'organiser autour du comment et du quand, le sommet du basculement entre les intentions et les investissements. Mon pays prendra toute sa part avec rigueur, avec humilité, dans le respect des standards les plus élevés de sûreté, de sécurité et de non-prolifération, et un panafricain convaincu. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you for the reminder that Africa's nuclear agenda will not be an imported agenda. It will be grounded, executed, and capacitated in Africa by Africans. Thank you, Your Excellency. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our host nation has positioned itself at the forefront of conversations and action around innovation, technology, climate resilience, and long-term energy planning. To deliver our keynote address, please help me welcome with a warm round of applause His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda.
Excellency, for Gnassingbé, President of the Republic of Togo, Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Excellency, my friend Mahamadou Issouf, former President of the Republic of Niger, former chair of the African Union Commission, my friend Musa Faki, Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by welcoming you all to Kigali and thank the leaders here present for honoring our invitation and all the work they do for the importance of this topic we are discussing today. In fact, a number of other leaders had intended to be with us, but they couldn't make it. Either they were here last week or they are in some other places attending to some important assignments. I also thank them. From the outset, NEISA was designed to bring together leaders, experts, and partners to advance Africa's nuclear energy goals. The strong participation here today reflects a growing consensus that the future of our economies depends on how quickly we solve the energy challenge. Rwanda is pleased to have successfully completed the IAEA's Phase 1 Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review. We intend to have nuclear energy operational by the early 2030s. And this assessment confirms that we are on track. For Africa, energy is not simply a development issue. It is the foundation of industrial growth and competitiveness. Modern manufacturing, mineral processing, digital infrastructure, and advanced healthcare all depend on reliable power. The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence and the data-driven industries will also significantly increase energy consumption. Countries that cannot meet this demand will struggle to compete. This is why Rwanda considers nuclear energy a critical component of Africa's long-term transformation. As more countries move in this direction, international reviews and regulatory processes should not become barriers, but instead offer the necessary support. For Rwanda, small modular reactors represent the most practical way forward. They are better suited to the realities of most African countries because they can be deployed gradually and integrated into smaller grids at a lower cost. Renewable energy will remain indispensable, particularly solar and hydro, where Africa has enormous potential. But our economies cannot function efficiently on intermittent supply alone. At the center of this endeavor is the question of investment. Too often, investors hesitate because they perceive many risks in Africa. We must work to strengthen regulation, ensure consistency and accountability in order to build confidence and attract long-term capital. The international financing environment is also evolving. Nuclear energy is increasingly recognized as part of the clean energy transition, and that creates new opportunities. What Africa cannot afford is fragmentation. If countries work in isolation, progress will be slow and far more costly. Cooperation on regulation, financing, and regional power integration is essential. This is precisely why NEISA matters. We are moving the conversation beyond ambition to practical coordination and financing mechanisms that can sustain deployment at scale. Rwanda will remain and will continue supporting these efforts because this is larger than any one country. By 2050, Africa will have the largest workforce in the world. The demographic shift can become one of the greatest economic advantages of this century if we prepare for it. In this regard, we are delighted that Togo will host the next NEISA and carry forward this continental momentum. I also once again wish to thank Rafael Grossi of IAEA for the kind support to this effort, and also for the single-mindedness with which he has focused matters to do with our continent of Africa and how we can continue moving together forward. I thank you very much for your kind attention.